Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev secured a second term in Sunday's snap election, winning 81% of the vote. A donor conference in Paris aims to help Moldova deal with the impact of the Ukraine war, as well as rising food and energy prices.
At least 46 people have been killed after a 5.6 magnitude earthquake shook Java in Indonesia, in the capital Jakarta.
Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev has secured a second term in Sunday's snap election, winning 81% of the vote. Tokayev has been widely expected to extend his rule over the oil-rich nation by 7 years. None of the other candidates, all unknown to the majority of the population, exceeded 4% of the votes. The second most popular choice was an option to cast a vote against everyone, which took 6% of ballots. Along with his Prime Minister Ali Khatsmailov, Tokayev maintains his grip on power that was shaken after a bloody uprising in January the president said was a coup attempt. The election comes after steps by Tokayev to keep Kazakhstan's distance from longtime ally and dominant regional power Russia. Today, the European Union is one of the largest investors in the country.
Russian forces are reportedly beginning to reinforce their positions in the occupied Luhansk, Donetsk and eastern Zaporizhia regions with personnel from Kherson and mobilized servicemen, says the Institute for the Study of War. The UK Defence Ministry adds that Russian forces are constructing defensive positions, partially manned by poorly trained mobilized reservists, around the Svatove sector in the Luhansk region in northeastern Ukraine. Now let's take a look at the map. A Ukrainian military official stated that Ukrainian forces have liberated 12 settlements in Luhansk region since the start of the counteroffensive operation here. According to the latest British intelligence update, with Russia's southwestern front line now more ready defendable along the east bank of the Dnipro River, the Svatove sector is likely now a more vulnerable operational flank of the Russian force. Now, Russian leaders will highly likely see retaining control of Svatove as a political priority, though the commanders are likely struggling with the military realities of maintaining a credible defense while also attempting to resource offensive operations further south in Donetsk. Advisor to Mariupol Mayor Petro Andryushchenko noted the arrival of redeployed personnel and military equipment to Mariupol, stating that Russian forces are placing between 10 to 15,000 servicemen in the Mariupol area. Andryushchenko stated that newly mobilized men are deploying to the presumably western Donetsk region front line via Mariupol. The Institute for the Study of War says Russian officials are preparing for further covert mobilization efforts, even as the autumn conscription cycle is underway. The Kremlin said there are no plans to call up more Russian soldiers to fight in Ukraine through a second round of mobilization.
Diplomats from more than 35 countries are gathered in Paris for a meeting to drum up money and support for Europe's poorest country, Moldova. The former Soviet Republic has been struggling with power outages, massive arrivals of refugees, and potential security threats from the war in neighboring Ukraine. In addition, Russia has just halved its energy deliveries to Moldova.
We will first focus on short-term emergency needs, helping Moldova, helping its population to get through this winter. The second objective of this conference is to provide assistance to Moldova in the long term by supporting its economic reform programme, by supporting its infrastructure and, in short, by helping it on its way to join the European Union.
Moldovan President Maia Sandu has warned of the risk of the country running out of gas and electricity this winter, with gas prices rising 600% in the last year. The country needs an additional 1.1 billion euros to get through this winter. EU member Romania has stepped in to sell gas and electricity to the nation at reduced prices, supplying up to 90% of Moldova's electricity. But Romania says that the country should start finding other sources of energy.
At least 46 people have been killed after an earthquake shook Indonesia's Java island. That's according to initial reports, with hundreds more injured. The magnitude of 5.6 was centred in West Java at a depth of 10 kilometres, according to the US Geological Survey. Dozens of buildings have been damaged in Jakarta, including a hospital, an Islamic boarding school and public facilities. However, usually earthquakes aren't felt in the capital. The second of two men killed in a missile explosion in eastern Poland last Tuesday has been buried. The 60-year-old's funeral was held on Sunday. The other man, who was 62, was buried on Saturday. The incident has left the villagers deeply shaken and in mourning. The blast happened in a small farming community around 6 kilometres from the border with Ukraine. Western officials say the deaths appeared to have been caused by a Ukrainian air defence missile that went astray, but still ultimately blame Russia. A Polish investigation has begun to determine the source of the missile and the circumstances when it was launched.
Not enough charging stations, uncertain electricity supply and an unstable electric grid. The reality facing the EU decision to go electric as of 2035. Manufacturers are working on more efficient vehicles with a range of more than 600 kilometres. But will these cars offer the same amount of freedom when it comes to getting around?
The vehicles will not be the biggest problem. The technology is there, the vehicles can be built. The problems are in the other dimensions of this transformation. The charging infrastructure, access to the raw materials, keeping mobility affordable and accessible for small businesses, for drivers, citizens like you and me, and getting this transformation done, including the green energy as well.
Right now, 50% of charging stations in the European Union are in two countries, Germany and the Netherlands. The risk is that consumers will hesitate to buy an electric car as long as there's no adequate charging infrastructure available. Then there's the challenge for the electricity providers. A massive fleet of potentially hundreds of millions of new electric cars would mean an additional hundreds of billions of kilowatt hours of electricity generation, and that's just according to estimates.
We need to increase the electricity output, but this is what we are planning for. We need to expand renewable energy. In Germany, we have already planned to increase renewable energy share of all electricity to 80% by 2030. This already includes assuming that we will power all of these electric cars, but not only the electric cars, but also for heating.
Finally, there's the electric power grid. Some argue that electric vehicles make the grid unstable, which would need hefty investments to upgrade existing infrastructures in order to withstand the massive electricity uptake. The European Commission says that €500 billion would be needed to modernise Europe's energy grid this decade. Conclusion: the road to 2035 will be long and costly. Maeve McMahon, Euronews, Brussels.
The Munich collection in Vienna contains almost 500 animal-related works. The exhibition, The Animal Within, hopes to address questions on the relationship we have with animals and reflect on the nature of sex, hunger and affection. It also looks at family and gender relations, socialisation and domestication, exploring a materialistic understanding between art and life. In Spain, the El Prado Museum in Madrid has the Other Renaissance exhibition showcasing 75 works loaned from public and private collections. It includes paintings, sculptures and books and highlights the transition of Spanish and southern Italian art towards greats such as Leonardo, Raphael and Michelangelo. Over in Paris at the Musée d'Orsay, lovers of works by Rosa Bonheur can enjoy rediscovering her creations, which aim to capture the emotions of animals, which was her favourite subject. She was a feminist before her time and gained recognition on both sides of the Atlantic. Born in 1822 in Bordeaux, the exhibition celebrates the bicentenary of her birth.